Garudasana or eagle pose, another standing balancing posture. And let's talk about the arms first. It does take a fair amount of flexibility in the shoulder joints, so you can always start by just hugging one arm on top of the other, holding opposite upper arms or shoulders. If that feels okay with you, maybe you can walk the hands a little further and start to cross at your elbows. If your elbows are crossed, then you can bring the backs of the hands to touch. If this feels okay for you, then you can bring the palms to touch. Throughout Garudasana, you are trying to lift the elbows a little bit and draw the hands away from your face. Part of what makes Garudasana such a tricky balancing posture is your arms are right in front of you, and your drishti, your gaze point, can help you to balance. If your hands are moving a lot and you're focusing on your hands, then that can be tricky. So trying to stabilize the hands so you have a still point to focus the eyes on, or you can tilt your head a little bit and tilt your hands a little bit and look just past the hands as well. Now that might throw you a little off balance because you're now teetering off to the side a bit. This being a balancing posture, again, all the same principles apply for that supporting foot. Spread the toes wide, anchor into all four corners. However, we are bending the knee here. So for the supporting knee, we're bending similar to chair pose. The weight is dropped back into the heel and your knee is bent. In some traditions, they bend a little less, and in some, they bend a little bit more. But either way, you just want to stabilize down into that foundation. When crossing the leg over, there's a little bit of an internal rotation in your inner thighs. You're spinning your inner thighs in just a little bit, and then we're really crossing over. If it feels more comfortable for your knee, if it doesn't feel good to cross all the way over, you can also cross at the ankle, doing more of a figure four here. You can also cross over and touch the toes to the floor to help support you and balance. And then if it feels okay for the knee, you can also cross all the way over and tuck the ankle behind the opposite calf. Now that can be really tricky because it depends on how your hip joint is built. You might start to feel that in the knee. If you feel it in the knee, please don't do that version. You can always cross it over and just float the foot up as well. We're squeezing the inner thighs in. This is going to help with Mula Bandha again, pelvic floor engagement, activating all the way up into your TA. And as far as the pelvis is concerned, same thing we talked about in tree pose with balancing. We have the tendency to sink into that supporting foot, and that hip will lift higher than the other one. If that's happening, you'll probably fall over. Also, the hip will lift up here and crunch into that side waist. We want to think about lengthening both sides of the waist evenly and sinking the pelvis back evenly, like you're sitting in that imaginary chair, instead of one hip crunching up higher than the other. And then I'm going to talk about the tilting of the pelvis as well. Pelvis can tilt in those two directions. When we sit back into that imaginary chair, the pelvis is even. We don't want to tuck the tailbone or pop it out behind us. We're activating through the pelvic floor and our core. Pubic bone and tailbone are going back and down evenly. And then, of course, the other way that the pelvis moves is the rotation. And this is where it gets really fun. So when you cross one leg over, your pelvis is naturally going to rotate. It has to. In order to get that all the way over, your pelvis does have to twist a little bit. So the pelvis is twisting, whichever way you're going. But also, because we're really crossing the arms, the shoulders are going to twist as well. So your pelvis is going to twist one way, and what we want to do is twist the shoulders the opposite way. And what that will do is it'll balance us out in center and help us to balance. So the way we do that is we cross opposite arm and leg. If your right leg is up and over, then your left arm is up and over. By the right leg coming up and over, it will twist the pelvis to the right a little. By the left arm coming up and over, it'll twist your rib cage to the left a little bit. And then that stabilizes us in the center. Think about the way we walk or run. We reach the opposite arm forward as the foot that's coming forward. That's the way we run, it's the way we walk. We don't do same arm, same leg. And the reason is because when we step the foot forward, it's going to rotate the pelvis. When we swing the arm forward, it rotates the shoulders. I'm exaggerating, of course, but it's going to rotate you a little bit.